This is Kevin Carter, and I'm chopping it up with Buck.
I was like, man, what is going on?
Stop telling me you want to get to the NFL and you don't come out here and show me.
They hit and hit and hit all the time.
That's what life is all about, is that especially if you could pass on information.
All right, let's chopping it up with Buck. Let me go way back, because the first guest I had on the show was yours truly, Kevin Carter. KC, how you doing, man? Been too long.
Man, I'm doing well. If I was doing any better, I'd be guilty of something.
So KC, we got, college football, NFL. We can go any kind of way, but first with college. How did the 12-team playoff, how did you look at it? How did you view it? I know you're on CBS covering it, but What was that like for you this year when you looked at the 12-team playoff?
It was good timing for us as a network because we signed on with the Big Ten this year. That was our first year of full coverage covering them. It was the Big Ten on CBS instead of the historic SEC on CBS in that 3:30 window. My man BJ and Rick Neuheisel, Aaron Taylor holding it down on that broadcast. And it was exciting, and it was good timing from a conference performance standpoint. The Big Ten came up big this year. You had great storylines, of course, the Ohio State University with all of its adversity through the season and talking about firing Ryan Day and, it's not national championship or bust.
I got to ask you, what in the hell are those people thinking, talking about firing Ryan Day? What are they thinking, KC?
Well, look, they were, if he hadn't won the national title, he might have been stepping away from that job. They were when they lost to Michigan. The talk was, the end of the world. I'm like, you're still going to get into the playoff. And Michigan's not going anywhere. The good thing is, you guys, the Buckeyes can beat anyone not named Michigan. It seems like, but that whole dynamic, I think, has been enhanced, enriched, kind of supercharged by the fact that you've got free agency, virtually in college football, with kids, basically being able to hit the portal, go to the highest bidder. NIL money is good for 4 and 5 stars that haven't played yet and have the promise and potential of being big stars. So they go and get paid, man. So you're seeing 15 to 20, kids every year hit the portal, and you're seeing these newly formed teams. And I think, when you're talking about the lucrative nature of everything going on, you've got free agency, you've got NIL, and you've got a 12-team playoff system now that, and what we've seen from the ratings of these games, just even the initial round of playoff games, these teams being rewarded with a home stadium game, another game.
Could you imagine being in the swamp and having your home stadium as the first round game?
Couldn't imagine. Couldn't imagine. It was a spectacle to be seen, whether you were, up in South Bend or you were there for a whiteout. It didn't matter where you were for one of these playoff games. It was absolutely electric. So, the question, how did the 12-team playoff, man? It was great. It was amazing. Obviously, people are going to pick things out and point fingers and try to say, well, and I agree with one sentiment. I think the whole tournament aspect should be seeded better. I think there were a couple of games that were a little bit, they were matchups that obviously you want to see them all, but you kind of want to see other matchups more than you want to see some of the matchups that, that we had. And, I can respect that. And I can also, say that the playoff committee also kind of gave some things away leading up to, the final, because they told you the emphasis they were putting on strength of schedule, strength of record, right? Especially in the Big Ten and the SEC. They had all these teams just camped out in these slots, even though they had 2 and 3 losses for weeks on end. And you had these one-loss teams and undefeated teams that couldn't buy their way into that 12-team playoff. And we had to quiet down the masses and say, don't worry, it's not going to be this way. Only these teams are going to get in. But I think they can do a better job of being a little bit more transparent.
What does that look like moving forward? Because they're going to expand. It's not going to stay at 12.
Yeah. I think in true college football playoff fashion, they already know the next tier of what's going to happen. They already have a plan, and basically it's going to be contingent upon, people viewing the game, people betting on the game, people enjoying the game until it gets to a point where, the complaints get too high and it no longer fits with the system that we're trying to develop. And obviously, you and I know, we talked about this years ago. The formation of these super conferences, and then eventually, whether it's the NCAA or some type of central governing body that steps up, sort of like the NFL is, and kind of is a commissioner presiding over all these teams. And it's going to be a free for all. And if you're not one of these teams as part of one of these super conferences, then your team gets left out in the cold in terms of keeping up with the arms race, having the facilities and stuff to lure players, and also being able to have the fan base that can garner the type of, NIL endorsement money that can entice and build your program. So you're really looking at a system where, a revenue sharing model is going to have to be introduced. They're going to have to calm down FanDuel and DraftKings and everything
that's
else.
What I was going to ask you about, though. We talk about the transfer portal, NIL. We talk about all these things. NFL talks about more competitive balance. But once they started saying you can bet on this, we can talk about lines, we can talk about parlays. I'm not a gambler.
No,
so, I go to Vegas. I might play the blackjack and some slots. I want to see shows and everything else. This gambling is one of the things we don't talk enough about, and you just hit on it.
Doesn't matter what it is. Capitalism has no moral compass. It has no soul. It does not care. It's just figure it out and make money. And that's what college football, pro football, since the invention or the integration rather of gambling has really done for these sports. I do a FanDuel top 5 every week, and because they're one of our corporate partners. And I've been making a stink about it every week because I'm like, you know what? I'm giving you my FanDuel top 5, right? And I've looked at these matchups, and for us, it's like boxing. Styles make fights. So we can pretty much look at a matchup and say, this defense is, one of the top defenses in this conference, and they're not going to be able to do this. So X, Y, and Z, this person, that they can keep the ball away and not turn the ball over, so-and-so is going to have a big-ass game. We know things like that, right? And after a couple of weeks of feeding them information, and then all of a sudden, what I say, of course, comes true, where you have a situation like, okay, I'll give you a prime example. Tennessee, Alabama was on the road playing at Tennessee. And this is back when they had Hendon Hooker and the whole high-flying Tennessee offense, Josh Heupel, and Cedric Tillman gets hurt. I said, whoa, man, Jalen Hyatt is going to go off, okay? He's going to get the lion's share of these balls, and he's the fastest kid within 3 states. And I'm telling you, he's gonna take the top off of that Alabama secondary is a little suspect. He broke the single game receiving.
And Bama's defensive secondary hadn't been the same since that game.
Right, since that game. And afterwards, I'm like, wait a minute, man. I didn't get a little kickback. I didn't get a bonus. I didn't even get a little commemorative, DraftKings mug or something, or
you didn't get the grown man NIL.
I didn't get no merchandise. So I'm like, you know what, dude? I'm gonna temper my predictions and not be so accurate, but it's a real thing. I mean, each and every week, the things that people are able to gamble on, the aspects, all the different little ratios, the over-unders for quarters, for halves, for time of possession, for everything, you can gamble on it. And so, there's so much money being made right now. And, obviously the kids had to get paid eventually. You had to have the integration of paying the NIL in this game. But I mean, that whole aspect, dude, Caesar Sportsbook, all these different entities, gambling things that have come to be legalized. I mean, obviously, we know who's making the most money. It's ownership and it's conferences. And you know what? There's a plan going forward. If you don't believe so, man, there's someone who knows more about the plan. It's always in control.
This is interesting to watch this year and how the NFL game was
from a purely objective standpoint, and I can talk about this with you because you talk to layman people about the heartbreak of the NFL being entertainment
Yeah.
and not being about the game. And it's very real, right? But most fans don't want to hear that. They want to be sold on the illusion that everything is pure and hunky-dory. But when you look at the NFL game, man, it's like there's too many things that just don't add up. I mean, sooner or later, we're going to come out with some metrics to see, ever since the integration of gambling, how many games come down to one possession games, how many games come down to overtime games, how many more exciting photo finishes do we have both in college and in the NFL since the integration of gambling. With that said, I tell people, you want to lose money, gamble on the NFL, okay? Because it's the worst thing. Somebody could have some drama on their team. Somebody could be messing around with somebody's baby mama, or
man,
tickets might have got messed up, or maybe the mistress found out, or something happened. Next thing you know, football's the ultimate team sport, and you got things messed up in your dynamic. And everyone is great in the NFL, and so you might be that team that someone puts it all together against, and you get your butt beat on any given Sunday. So
I saw you guys got back together. Was it this year or last year? I know periodically y'all get back together and Coach Vermeil, and my ties to him are through UCLA, and he actually gave me my first broadcasting board. But yeah, it's always interesting to see those, whether it's any team, but how is it when y'all get back together, and what are those times like?
It's like we never left, and the people, you ask anybody that played, and all of us say, what do you miss most about the league? And it's like, you miss the guys.
Yeah.
You miss the locker room. You miss just the things that you and I and Tom Luganbill and Jason Sehorn and I, we used to all do in studio. It's like we had that camaraderie again, and you don't ever have it. You may have good friends, you may have great neighbors, and whoever's your godparents for your kids and everything. We can all stand at barbecues and have a beer and talk about things and, world problems and, politics and we can talk about all kinds of stuff, man. But when you get with guys that went through what you went through, that were part of that locker room and that were part of a team, it's like, there's nothing like it, and nothing can take the place of it. So when you get together with those guys that you made a special moment and time in your personal history with, it's like you never left. It's like you rekindle all the old jokes, all the old nicknames, all the old euphemisms, all the silly stories from training camp. Remember when so-and-so did this? Remember that day in training camp we did this? And maybe you remember when the rookies put on a show and they did this?
Yeah.
I mean, all those things, man, they come full circle and they come right back. And shoot, man, we're in our 50s now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're talking about the Super Bowl. It's like, this is the, silver anniversary or whatever. I'm like, what? 25 years? What? But it's like, but it's wonderful, man. It's like you get together with those guys, it's like, and to still have Coach Vermeil, on this planet and have him, it's like when you get around those guys, man, it's like, those moments in time, they live on, through our memories and just a wonderful, wonderful storybook memory that could not have worked out any better. Looking back on it.
Awesome, man. So this year in college and the pros, who were the disappointments to you? Which teams didn't live up to what you thought they would in both college and the NFL?
Well, I'll start with Georgia. The Georgia Bulldogs, to me, have been a team that, kind of Kirby Smart was to me doing the best job in the modern era of football with NIL. The three parts of your team, right? Who you can recruit and bring in and develop, who you can recruit, who you can keep and develop, and what you get from the transfer portal, right? Those three components or whatever, and also coaches are involved in all three of those aspects as well. To me, he was doing the best job of maintaining that balance between players that he could recruit, ones that he could develop. There was next man up mentality, the Nakobe Deans of the world. I mean, how many guys, get drafted that don't even start for the Georgia Bulldogs, because we know what pedigree, how they've been trained and how they've been coached and what the collective football IQs are. But Georgia, to me, underperformed a little bit, especially with the fact that you win 2 back-to-back national titles with an undersized quarterback who people can't wait to get out of the helm. They can't wait to get the ball out of Stetson Bennett's hands and into the hands of Carson Beck. He's the 5-star. He's the heir apparent. And I know we were good with Stetson, but we're going to be great with Carson Beck. And this is no knock on him. But this is a knock on, be careful what you wish for. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. And just because, every year, and Nick Saban said it best, man, every year a team they have to carve out their existence. They have to find their identity. They have to find a way to win that has nothing to do with the team that came before them. Mm-hmm. And so Georgia was one of those teams that underperformed just for me. I was also disappointed in how, a team like BYU ended the season. I thought they were one of the quirkiest, most well bought in, high football IQ. They had the BY Jew and Jake Retzloff. Right? He's balling at quarterback. You got guys on defense like Isaiah Glasker, who's a guy who may play on Sundays. You got dudes on this team, and I'm liking everything about it because every week you don't know who's going to be the hero. You don't know who's going to be the person that gets them the win. And the way they ended the season, to me, they kind of fizzled out. They kind of hit their peak a little too soon. I was pleasantly surprised with teams like Arizona State. Right. Just the job that he did, man, that year. Cam Scatterboo. Yeah. Just a real.
I covered him when he was at Sacramento State. So it was so cool to see him at A-State. Mm-hmm. But I kept telling people, and people wouldn't listen to me. I said, he's going to be a problem. And when they played Texas, my buddies that went to Texas, who's this Cam? I like, just talk to me afterwards because this kid, he's the truth now. Mm-hmm. Don't get it twisted.
Exactly.
Yeah,
you had a lot of good teams in college football this year, but like I said, Georgia let me down a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think people will never be satisfied with what Alabama does if they're not holding up a crystal football at the end of the season. I think Kalen DeBoer, 9-3, great first year. Can you recruit and can you develop a quarterback? Jalen Milroe to me never looked better, and the only time they lost is when they didn't do the right thing by him. Letting him give the kid the keys to the damn offense and let him go, and
Ryan Grubb, I think, has just joined them again, and they hadn't been apart. So I'm interested to see how that comes back together again.
I like that combination, man. And you say what you want, and I know the standards are a little bit unrealistic in terms of, like I said, there's about 4 or 5 programs that think that they have a lease on being in the college football playoff every year. They always think they should be there, and Bama's one of those teams, but 9-3 in your first year as a head coach. I think Nick Saban was something like 7-6 his first year. Let's be real. So
he beat Dan Hawkins in the Independence Bowl, which I covered. He had that first year. So that's the thing. I think when you look at it, it's hard to follow a legend like that, and it's interesting you bring that up because I think Kalen DeBoer is going to be okay. It's just, are they going to give him enough time to turn this thing around?
Right.
That's the thing that's interesting to me because it's a change. People have to understand it's a change. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And he hadn't lost anywhere on any level he's been at.
No. And that's the thing. Everywhere he's gone, he's had success, and then the way he's built the teams with staff and with assistant coaches. Indiana was a surprise this year. Love the job that Curt Cignetti did. Talk about just a group of, talk about hitting it well in the portal. Miles Price, Miles Cooper, Elijah Surratt. Yeah. That whole veteran group of skilled players.
JMU. West, they moved west,
and I love it because the one thing that you could not deny them, man, it's like they weren't going to lose to anyone not named one of those top tier elite teams. If you didn't have superior talent, then you weren't going to outcoach or outplay this Indiana Hoosiers team, and I love that because now, it opens the door for the possibility of recruiting better talent, right? So if you can stock the cupboard with better pieces, and kids love that swag. They love that trash talk. They love that edge to the head coach. And Curt Cignetti, man, if you've ever been around the guy, he ain't pulling no punches. He's like,
No.
Google me, I win. It's what I do, and I
I
love it.
love it.
I
I
love
do
it.
too. Hey, well, we're gonna get you out of here with a little 2-minute drill, man. That's been great. And the stories about the Super Bowl, so many people want to understand what it's like to be there. You had a chance to play in it and know that feeling. But I got to hit you with this: Gladiator 1 or Gladiator 2?
I'll say Gladiator 1 just because of the pureness of the story.
Okay. Okay.
I think I enjoy Gladiator 2 much better than a lot of people
I liked it too. Yeah.
because you had the element of accurate world history affecting a situation. Okay, and people are ignorant. People don't read. They don't. We don't teach accurate history in schools or stuff like that. But the thing about it, man, is when you look at world history, when you look at who we are, we talk about the whole Renaissance period that happened, in the UK or whatever. That was basically all kinds of alchemy, science, knowledge, whether it's the arts or music or food, seasoning, spices, science, architecture. All those things came from Northern Africa. They came from Egypt and the Moroccans and the West Africans and whatever. That
Yeah.
knowledge came north into what is, the Moors occupied what is
Spain.
southern Spain and
Yeah.
Germany and France. They occupy that territory for 800 years.
Taught them arithmetic,
Yeah.
school,
Taught them how to read and
hygiene.
write, gave them science, gave them all kinds of stuff. And they talk about, this Renaissance period. And like, you didn't have philosophers and painters and stuff like that. We gave y'all that. And when I say we, I mean, hey, let's just be real.
Yeah.
And I think kind of exploring that aspect of not everyone was about the glory of Rome. Not everyone was about trying to further. There were also what may be viewed as villainous or, people who look to usurp the power in that region because of what was done to them, right? Colonialism is not a new concept. Okay. No. Colonizing people and bringing them under your rule is something that's been going on for centuries. And I love that aspect. Denzel having served for Marcus Aurelius, being in one of those camps, he was just another random, person from a random society that contributed to the greatness, the glory of Rome. But he sought to get his revenge. Yeah. Cool storyline, man, when you found out who Denzel was and how he was able to manipulate people and how he was able to rise to power. So I love that aspect. I enjoyed that just a little bit more because it spoke to, more of accurate history that was actually taking place at the time.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, who did you not sack that you wish you would have when you played? One guy you didn't get to or didn't get to as many times as you wanted to.
Well, I never sacked, and he was a little young when I was playing, but I never got a chance to play against Michael Vick.
Oh, okay.
Would have liked to have. Well, as much as I say I would have liked to, I don't know if I would have wanted to because he probably would have made me look silly. But Michael Vick was one that I never had a chance. I sacked all the greats, Boomer, sacked Jim Kelly, sacked Brett Favre, sacked Peyton Manning, sacked Tom Brady, sacked your boy Troy Aikman. I mean, I pretty much everybody on that all-time list. Didn't sack Randall Cunningham.
Wow.
I was young in the league when he was playing, so didn't get a chance to sack him, and we never played them. But yeah, I have a pretty good greatest hits, in terms of who
I love the D lineman. Y'all remember those sacks, boy?
Oh, come on, every one, every single one, bro. I can tell you where I was, what down and distance. I know who I was playing against. Everything.
That's what I love because when you ask, I got him. Yeah, I didn't get him. Oh yeah.
Well, and the funny thing is, sometimes, you get lucky enough to work with people that you played against. And boy, I tell you, Steve Berline, that guy, man. I think when I had 17 sacks that year, we went to Super Bowl. I think 7 of them were on him because we played the Carolina Panthers twice,
and they were bad
in the month of November, man. And that dude, that poor guy, man, he just contributed to my sack total. That was a heck of a season for me. But I know he's tired of seeing Kevin Carter because I was defensive player of the month or whatever in the NFC.
Yeah.
And like I said, I had like 9 sacks in the month of November, and 7 of them were on Steve Berline. So
last one for you: mountains or ocean?
I'm a Florida kid, man. So everybody thinks that I would say oceans, but I actually enjoy the mountains. Yeah. I love to get away to a cabin, love to hike. You know, as I've gotten older, man, you know, I don't run so much anymore. I like to walk. So being in a mountainous area, being up in New York every year, I love getting up to northern New York in the Adirondacks. My son's out. And out in San Francisco, I love hiking the national parks out there. Yeah. So I am a mountain person as I approach middle age.
I would have said the ocean because, interesting. Well, man, that's great. It's always good to have you on. My very first guest on Chopping It Up with Buck, we were on here singing. Kevin was making fun of him. My producer, Kevin, was making fun of him.
I know you want to leave, but I refuse to let you go. Yeah. They came in the locker room. We had people on set singing with us. Like, y'all got to do that again. Every time we work together, we just start.
Oh yeah. But that's that love of music, man. I had that. I had that in me from an early age.
Always good to have you on, man. We'll have to do it again soon, brother.
Always, at any time, brother. Appreciate it.